Dawn broke gently over DEI. DEI, Abuja's restless outskirts. The morning air smelled of dust, roasted corn, and survival. As traders arranged their goods and kake engines coughed awake, Amina Sadiq stepped out of her father's one-room apartment, her white cane tapping softly against the cracked pavement. To the world, Amina was blind. Dark glasses hid her eyes. Her movements were careful, measured, almost fragile. Neighbors greeted her with pity-laced kindness. Some whispered prayers. Others shook their heads, grateful it wasn't their fate. But behind those dark lenses, Amina saw everything. She saw the way people's voices changed when money passed nearby. She saw how compassion often vanished when survival grew tight. And most of all, she watched how love behaved when it thought no one was looking. At her side walked Musa Danjuma, a cakey rider with oil-stained hands and a heart worn thin by responsibility. He guided her through puddles, shielded her from reckless drivers, and spoke to her with a gentleness he showed no one else. "Easy, Amina," he said softly, steering her around a pothole. "One more step." She smiled, not the weak smile people expected, but a quiet, grateful one, meant only for him. Musa loved her without conditions, without shortcuts, without promises of tomorrow. He loved her as she was, or at least as he believed she was. That was why Amina's heart trembled, because the truth burned quietly inside her. Years earlier, after a brief illness that blurred her sight, doctors had declared her eyes healed, fully, completely. But Amina had made a choice, a dangerous one. She had watched her mother die, begging for dignity. She had seen men promise love, only to abandon it when hardship arrived. So she decided to test the world. If a man could love me blind, she believed, then he would love me forever. At home, Baba Sadiq watched them leave, worry creasing his tired face. He loved his daughter fiercely, but fear followed him like a shadow. Fear that love without money was another kind of blindness. "Amina," he called gently, "life is harder than love." She paused at the doorway, cane resting on the floor, and replied with a calm that surprised even herself. "Papa, life without love is harder." As she stepped back into the noisy street, Amina did not know that fate was already shifting, that somewhere beyond Day, past the markets, past the struggles, past Musa's honest hands, power was watching weakness. And the real test of sight was about to begin. The sun climbed higher over DEI, turning zinc rooftops into mirrors of heat. Amina sat on a wooden bench beside the roadside, her cane resting across her knees. To passers-by, she looked like a girl waiting for help. In truth, she was waiting for answers. Musa parked his keki nearby, wiping sweat from his brow. Business was slow, but his eyes never left her. "Amina," he said, forcing a smile, "when I make enough, we'll move you away from this place. I promise." She nodded, fingers tightening around the cane. Promises were easy. Sacrifice was not. Inside her chest, a quiet voice asked the question she never dared say aloud. "If this poverty never changes, will you still choose me?" That was the reason for the silence, the reason for the act. Amina had learned early that words could lie, but behavior never did. As Musa left to pick another passenger, a black SUV slowed near the bench. Its windows were tinted, its presence commanding. People stepped aside instinctively. Power had arrived. The door opened, and Honorable Kabir Adebayo stepped out. Tailored caftan, calm eyes, authority worn like second skin. He observed Amina for a moment longer than necessary. "You're alone," he said, not as a question. Yes, sir, she replied softly, lowering her head. He noticed the cane, the glasses, the humility that did not beg. Kabir had seen many women, bold ones, desperate ones, calculated ones. But this one carried weakness, without performance, or so it seemed. Who takes care of you? He asked. My father, she said, and my friend. Kabir glanced at the keki rider, returning, then back at Amina. Something stirred, not pity, but curiosity. Life is unkind to the unprotected, he said slowly. If you ever need help, ask. He handed her a card. She reached for it hesitantly, fingers brushing his hand. He watched closely. She never flinched, never adjusted her gaze. To him, that confirmed everything. To her, it confirmed something else entirely. Power notices, weakness first. When Musa returned and saw the SUV pull away, his stomach tightened. Who was that? He asked. Just someone who asked if I needed help, Amina replied. Musa frowned. Be careful. Some help comes with chains. That night, as Abuja lights glowed faintly in the distance, Amina lay awake on her mat, eyes open in the dark. The test had begun to grow teeth. She was no longer only testing Musa. She was now testing herself. The invitation did not come with noise. It came quietly, like everything dangerous. 2 days after the encounter, a sleek car returned to DEI. DEI, drawing curious stares as it parked beside the dusty road. A uniformed driver stepped out and approached Amina with careful respect. Miss Amina Sadiq, he said. My boss requests your presence. Musa was there. He heard every word. His chest tightened as Amina rose slowly, cane in hand. Requests? For what? She asked. To help, the driver replied simply. Kabir Adebayo did not raise his voice. He did not force his way. He opened a door and waited to see who would walk through it. Baba Sadiq wept openly when he saw the vehicle. God has remembered us, he whispered, holding Amina's hands. Go, let them help you. Musa said nothing. His silence was louder than protest. The drive to Asokoro felt like crossing worlds. The roads smoothed. The air changed. Gates rose where fences once stood. When the car stopped, Amina stepped into a silence so heavy it felt unreal. She was guided into a mansion that smelled of polish and power, soft voices, moving shadows, marble floors. Kabir waited. I will not insult you with charity, he said calmly. You will stay here for a while. Rest. Let my doctors examine you. Let life breathe on you. Amina bowed her head. Thank you, sir. That night, she slept on a bed wider than her father's room. Maids whispered around her. Clothes appeared. Warm food arrived without counting. And still, she said nothing. Back in DEI, Musa paced restlessly. Every passing hour felt like something slipping beyond reach. He tried calling. The line rang, then went silent. Power had done what it always did. It created distance. As dawn crept into the mansion, Amina sat alone by the window, Cain resting beside her. She removed her glasses briefly, staring at the sunrise over Abuja's elite skyline. For the first time since she began her test, fear touched her heart, because it was one thing to test love in poverty. It was another to test it inside wealth. Morning arrived softly in Asokoro, filtered through tall curtains and guarded silence. Amina woke to a room that did not ask questions. Warm water waited. Clean clothes were laid out. Breakfast arrived without knocking. This was not kindness. This was control dressed as care. Kabir Adebayo never rushed. When he entered the sitting room later that morning, his presence alone rearranged the air. You are free here, he said, pouring tea without asking if she wanted any. But freedom needs structure. Amina nodded, cane resting across her knees. She listened more than she spoke, just as she always had. Only now, people listened back. Doctors came. They asked questions. She answered carefully, staying within the borders of her lie. Kabir watched every movement, every pause. He noticed that she never bumped into furniture, never reached too far, never misjudged space. He said nothing. Back in DEI, Musa finally reached Baba Sadiq. "She's safe," the old man said, relief heavy in his voice. "They are helping her. Real help." Musa swallowed. Helping or replacing us? Days passed. Amina's world widened. She was introduced to silence, to order, to the subtle language of power. Here, people did not shout to be heard. They waited. Kabir began to speak more. "People will always help you," he said one evening. "But help has seasons. Protection does not." "What do you mean, sir?" Amina asked. "Love is loud," he replied. "Protection is quiet." The words settled inside her, like a seed. When Musa finally arrived at the estate gates days later, security stopped him before he could speak her name. He stood outside Wealth, with empty hands and a full heart. Amina heard about his visit hours later. She said nothing. That night, alone in her room, she held her cane tightly, not because she needed it, but because she was afraid of the day she wouldn't, because comfort had begun to whisper, and it was asking her to choose. The evening air in Asokoro carried a quiet authority. Lights glowed softly across the estate, reflecting off polished stone and trimmed hedges. Amina sat on the terrace, her cane beside her chair, listening to the distant hum of Abuja at night. Kabir Adebayo joined her without announcement. "You've been here long enough to understand how this world works," he said, his voice even. "It does not reward patience. It rewards alignment." Amina tilted her head slightly. "Alignment with what, sir?" "With reality," Kabir replied. "Love is admirable, but love does not protect a woman from hunger, insults, or helplessness." She felt the words land precisely where fear lived. "I can give you stability," he continued. "A home, dignity, a name that opens doors. Not romance, protection." Amina's fingers tightened around the arm of the chair. Protection. Not love, not partnership. Safety without tenderness. Power without warmth. In that moment, Musa's voice returned to her memory. Tired, but sincere. "When I make enough, I promise." Promises versus guarantees. Kabir placed a small velvet box on the table beside her. Inside was not jewelry, but a key. "My estate," he said. "Your space. No one touches you without my consent. No one speaks to you without respect." Amina swallowed. In DEI, her father counted coins before meals. Musa counted passengers before hope. Here, nothing was counted. "I won't force you," Kabir added calmly. "But understand this. Waiting is a luxury of the already secure." That night, Amina did not sleep. She removed her glasses and stared at the ceiling, seeing clearly for the first time how dangerous her test had become. She had wanted to test love. Now, life was testing her values. At dawn, she dressed carefully, cane in hand, and asked to see Kabir. "I accept," she said softly. Kabir nodded once. No smile, no celebration. Back in DEI, Musa waited by the roadside with a ring he had bought in installments. Amina never came. The gate to the Asokoro estate opened wide that afternoon. Not with celebration, but with finality. Amina stepped out dressed in soft, expensive fabric, her cane still in hand, but lighter now, almost ceremonial. Behind her, Kabir's driver waited. Ahead of her stood Musa. He had come early. He had waited long. His shirt was creased from standing, his hands trembling. Not from fear, but from hope, fighting reality. "Amina," he said, his voice cracking with relief. "I knew you would come." She stopped a few steps away. The distance between them was small, but it felt like years. "I came to speak," she said quietly. Musa smiled, pulling out the ring wrapped in paper. "I'm not rich yet," he said quickly, "but I'm working. I swear I am. Don't let this place confuse you. We started together." Amina listened, really listened. She heard sincerity, but she also heard uncertainty, the kind that had kept her awake for years. "Musa," she said, lowering her head, "some journeys don't end where they begin." He froze. "What does that mean?" "It means," she continued, voice steady now, "I can't go back." Silence swallowed the space between them. "I love you," Musa said desperately. "Blind or not, rich or poor." Her grip tightened on the cane. "I don't need love anymore," Amina replied. "I need security." The words tasted bitter, but she did not take them back. Musa stepped forward. Security moved instantly. "Please," Musa said, his voice breaking. "If this is about money, I'll—" Kabir's voice cut through the air, calm and final. "She has chosen." Amina felt something inside her tear quietly, but she did not cry. Kabir extended his hand. Amina hesitated only a second before taking it. As the car pulled away, Musa stood frozen at the gate, ring still clenched in his fist. Inside the vehicle, Amina removed her glasses briefly, staring at the road ahead. For the first time since she began her test, she did not know what the right answer looked like. Because love had not failed her. She had walked away from it. Change did not arrive loudly. It arrived naturally, the way poison spreads when mixed carefully into food. Weeks passed in Asokoro, and Amina's world settled into rhythm. Drivers opened doors before she spoke. Maids anticipated her needs. Security men lowered their eyes when she passed. One morning, she stood before the mirror longer than usual. The cane leaned against the wall. She did not reach for it. Her steps were slow at first, measured, cautious, as if rehearsing a truth she had hidden too long. But when she reached the door without stumbling, something inside her relaxed. No one questioned it. Power had already answered for her. At Garki Market, whispers followed her presence. Traders bowed their heads. Prices dropped instantly. Fear replaced bargaining. When a woman hesitated to change her balance correctly, Amina's voice hardened. "Do you know who you're dealing with?" The woman froze, apologized, trembled. Amina felt it then. The rush, the control, the strange comfort of being feared. She remembered Musa's hands, calloused, honest, the way he used to shield her from shouting drivers. Now, drivers jumped aside, on their own. One afternoon, a Keke rider brushed too close to her car. "Arrest him," she said casually. The words left her mouth before conscience could catch them. As the man pleaded, Amina looked away. Back at the estate, Kabir watched quietly from a distance. He noticed the cane gathering dust. He noticed the new sharpness in her tone. Still, he said nothing. That night, Amina sat alone on the terrace, city lights blinking like distant stars. She told herself this was growth, strength, survival. Yet somewhere deep inside, a quieter truth stirred. She had stopped pretending to be blind, but she had begun to lose sight of herself. The morning Amina insulted the market woman, Abuja noticed. Not loudly, not publicly, but in the way stories travel, from stall to stall, from driver to driver, from whispered corners to guarded rooms. The same mouths that once prayed for her now spoke her name with caution. At Garki Market, a woman had dared to question a price Amina's aide offered. "I sell plantain, not rubbish," the woman said carefully. Amina turned slowly, her eyes cold behind designer glasses. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. The market went silent. Moments later, security dragged the woman aside. People watched with bowed heads, fear stiffening their spines. No one intervened. That night, Kabir summoned Amina to the study. He did not shout. He never did. "You were loved once," he said calmly, reviewing documents without looking up. "Do you remember how?" Amina stiffened. "People change." "No," Kabir replied. "People reveal." She felt irritation rise. "Are you questioning me?" "I am observing," he said, finally lifting his eyes. "Power exposes character faster than poverty ever could." For the first time since arriving at the estate, Amina felt small. Days later, Kabir tested her. Disguised in simple clothes, he sent an aide, posing as a poor man, to ask for help at the gate. Amina dismissed him without listening. "Send him away," she said. "I'm busy." Kabir watched from the cameras. The test was over. That evening, Amina stood alone in her room, staring at the cane still resting untouched in the corner. She remembered why she had picked it up in the first place. Not to deceive, but to protect herself from disappointment. Now, disappointment had become her weapon. She did not know it yet, but Kabir had already begun to pull away. Power, after all, does not cling. It judges. The estate grew quieter. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that follows judgment. Kabir Adebayo no longer joined Amina on the terrace. Meals were prepared without ceremony. Invitations stopped coming. The air that once bent gently around her now felt indifferent. Power had shifted its weight. Amina noticed, but she refused to acknowledge it. "People envy silence," she told herself. "This is how the elite live." Yet something felt wrong. At night, she dreamt of Dede, of dust on her feet, Musa's voice calling her name, the cane tapping the ground in rhythm with hope. She woke with her heart racing, her room too large, too cold. One afternoon, her car stopped abruptly on the road. Traffic, ordinary people, no sirens. A man crossed slowly in front of the vehicle, limping, poorly dressed, struggling with a sack on his shoulder. Drivers behind honked impatiently. Amina leaned forward. Irritation rose. "Move him," she snapped. The man turned, startled. For a brief second, their eyes met. Recognition flickered. "Musa," she whispered. He stood frozen, thinner now, eyes tired but steady. He said nothing. He did not beg. He did not accuse. That silence pierced her deeper than any words. Amina looked away first. When the car finally moved, she felt something collapse inside her chest. That evening, Kabir called her into the study once more. "I investigated your past," he said calmly. "Doctors, records, neighbors." Her breath caught. "You were never blind," he continued. "You chose to be." Amina's knees weakened. "I only wanted to test love." Kabir nodded slowly. "And what did you learn?" She could not answer. "Love passed," he said. "Power failed." He stood, straightening his sleeves. "You mistook protection for permission," Kabir said, "and weakness for entitlement." As he walked away, Amina realized the truth too late. The test had ended, and she had failed herself. The truth did not arrive like thunder. It arrived like paperwork. The next morning, Amina was handed a slim, brown envelope. No greeting, no explanation. Inside were documents neatly arranged. Medical reports, old prescriptions, witness statements from DEI neighbors, even a photo of her years ago, laughing, bare-eyed, fully seeing. Her hands trembled. Kabir Adebayo had not exposed her with anger. He had exposed her with clarity. She rushed to the study, heart pounding, breath shallow. "I can explain," she said before he spoke. Kabir remained seated, composed. "I know why you did it," he replied. "Fear makes people creative." "I only wanted to know if love was real," Amina pleaded. "I didn't plan to become this person." "No one ever plans to," Kabir said quietly. "They only plan to survive." He stood and gestured toward the window. Abuja stretched endlessly beyond the glass. Traffic, markets, ordinary lives, continuing without her permission. "You tested love," he continued, "but you never tested power. Power tests back." Her voice broke. "What happens now?" Kabir's eyes softened, but only slightly. "Now," he said, "everything that was given without truth must be returned with dignity." That afternoon, the maids packed her belongings. The driver returned the keys. Accounts were frozen, not seized, just withdrawn. The estate doors did not slam shut. They simply opened outward. As Amina stepped outside for the last time, the cane lay abandoned on the marble floor behind her. She did not pick it up. For the first time since the beginning of her test, she walked unaided, into uncertainty. And somewhere in the city, Musa lived on, wounded, but whole. Amina finally understood. Being able to see had never been her problem. Knowing how to live with what she saw was. Amina returned to DEI. DEI without sirens, without escorts, without applause. Just a taxi. And silence. The neighborhood looked smaller than she remembered. The walls more cracked, the road more uneven. Yet the air felt honest. No one bowed, no one feared her name. They only stared, some with curiosity, some with quiet judgment. Baba Sadiq opened the door slowly. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stepped aside. Inside the one-room apartment, Amina sat on the same wooden stool she had once despised. The weight of everything she had lost pressed against her chest. But for the first time, nothing was pretending to be something else. "I failed you," she whispered. Baba Sadiq shook his head gently. "No, my daughter. You learned." Days passed. Amina sold what little valuables remained. She returned to borrowed pride, piece by piece. She apologized to the market woman, to the keiki rider, to the people she had wounded with her words. Some forgave, some didn't. And she accepted both. One afternoon, as she walked along the roadside, she saw Musa again, fixing a phone under a tree, sleeves rolled up, face calmer than she remembered. She stopped. He looked up. They held each other's gaze, not with longing, not with anger, but with understanding, shaped by loss. "I'm not here to ask for anything," Amina said quietly. Musa nodded. "Good, because I don't have anything to give." She smiled faintly. "I just wanted to say, I can see now." He returned to his work, and for the first time, that was enough. As Amina walked away, the road stretched ahead, unforgiving, uncertain, but real. She did not reach for a cane. She no longer needed one. Months later, DI woke to the same dust, the same noise, the same struggle. But Amina Sadiq woke different. She had found work at a small learning center near the market, teaching women and children basic literacy, helping them read price lists, hospital forms, and bus signs. She listened more than she spoke now, and when she spoke, her words were careful. Power had once made her loud. Humility had made her clear. One afternoon, as she walked home, beneath a fading Abuja sunset, she passed the same roadside bench where everything had begun. For a moment, she stopped. Not to sit, not to test, but to remember. She thought of Musa, not as the man she left behind, but as the mirror she had avoided. She thought of Kabir, not as the man who took away her comfort, but as the force that returned her truth. And she thought of herself, a girl who pretended to be blind to protect her heart, and became morally blind when power arrived. Now she saw, not with fear, not with hunger, but with responsibility. As she reached her father's doorway, Baba Sadiq looked up from his chair. "You're late," he said. She smiled. "I was helping someone find their way." He nodded. "Good. That means you found yours." The night settled gently over Abuja. Somewhere in the distance, a kiki horn sounded. Life moved forward, unimpressed by wealth, untouched by lies, waiting only for honesty. Amina stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Not because she was hiding anymore, but because she was finally home.